call the June 28th, 2022 Plan Commission to order. Roll call beginning with Carrillo.
Carrillo here. Kupczynski here.
Kava chair.
Guzikowski here.
O'Donnell here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Thank you all. That will get us to the approval of minutes of June the 14th. If everybody please take a look and make sure they meet your approval, and when you're satisfied, we'll do a motion.
Guzikowski makes a motion to approve the June 14th Plan Commission meeting minutes from June 14th.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call beginning with Carrillo.
Carrillo abstains. Kupczynski aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski aye.
O'Donnell abstains.
Seifert aye.
Chandler aye.
Okay. That will get us to significant common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved the following: a motion to concur with the Parks and Recreation Commission and select Edgewater Resources to create a study and plan of redevelopment of public recreational space for the City of Oak Creek, North Bluff in an amount not to exceed $85,000, and a shared maintenance and access agreement between the City of Oak Creek and F Street OC LV LLC for Lakeshore Commons. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 5 is Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal actions. There were none currently to report on. Item 6, Quarterly Park and Recreation Commission actions. Do we have anything?
Next report is in September.
Oh, thank you. Next report is in September.
Apologies. We were going to have one for tonight, but just got away from us.
That's okay. So I'll get us to new business and item 7A. It's consideration of a proposed amendment to the comprehensive plan of the City of Oak Creek that we adopted on March 3rd, 2020, and we last amended March 1st, 2022, and it would change the land use plan and category from single-family detached commercial to the property at 7977 South 13th Street. So, Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proposal is for a comprehensive plan amendment, and this is for a particular property on 13th Street. It is currently in the comprehensive plan identified for single-family detached, your traditional single-family housing. The request is for it to be changed to commercial. The future proposed use per the submitted information is for an asphalt maintenance, concrete paving, and striping company by the applicant and the current landowner. If the comprehensive plan amendment is to be approved, it is not an endorsement of the conceptual plan or future reviews that may be required. The approval per statute does require a majority of the entire plan commission before it moves to the common council, where it will also require a majority of the council. So the proposal is to reuse the existing home on the property. This is a former residential property. It has been zoned for residential and used for residential purposes until the sale to the applicant, and that was recently within the past year or so. There have been no local approvals for any other uses besides residential and residential accessory uses. Information provided to the current and previous owners regarding local review processes, or something that was mentioned in the staff report, and something that staff would like to make clear to the Plan Commission. So there is quite a bit of process that would be required for this property. The first is the comprehensive plan amendment, and the previous landowners, I had conversations with them regarding what would be required, because initially they were going to approve for, or they were going to submit for a rezone request of the property. Inform them that they had to amend the comprehensive plan first, as it is currently identified for residential purposes. And unfortunately, all we received was the rezoning application from the previous landowners. It never went through. The land was sold, and we had a conversation with the existing applicant and landowner regarding the approval processes for changing the land use category in the comprehensive plan, rezoning, and then what may be required in the future. Also mentioned that even if we were to move forward with a comprehensive plan amendment, there's no guarantees for those future reviews that they would be approved. So just to give a little bit of background information again on the property, in the previous comprehensive plan, before this one was approved in 2020 and amended for several properties thereafter, it was identified for 2-family and townhouse residential, and that category actually extended from Drexel Avenue down to the floodway boundary. So in the current comprehensive plan, it was changed to identify the fact that there were some plans for redevelopment purposes along Drexel Avenue, also identifying the existing natural areas, so the floodway, and also recognizing that there are existing institutional uses, that there are extensive wetlands and floodplain in the area, so that was identified for parks and open space, and that there have been single-family residential developments in the area historically. These land use categories pretty much reflect what's been out there for many, many years. Subdivisions are there. There is precedent for local neighborhood or small scale kind of commercial, because there has been historically that kind of use in the area. There is also a CBRF, so those are the existing uses that are out there. Institutional, there's parks, there's a couple of churches, and a school. So staff, in evaluating this request, identify and recognize that there is a nexus to existing commercial, both in the comprehensive plan and in usage. Now, the nexus to the commercial designation is to the property to the north along Drexel Avenue. They share a property line at that property's southern and this property's northern boundary. But that's where the commercial designation currently stops. Again, there's precedent for small scale or neighborhood commercial in the area. However, we also recognize that the proposed use may be a bit challenging. It's not necessarily something that's supported by commercial land use in the comprehensive plan. And it's the contractor's yard specifically is not mentioned as an allowed use in any of the current business or commercial districts in the zoning code. So without additional information to determine whether or not, and this is not a rezone request, but this is just for future consideration, we would need additional information to determine whether or not this is actually a business that would be in a contractor's yard, which would require potentially a zoning text amendment before it would go through for rezone, conditional use, etc. Or if it would qualify for something within the existing land use category, or in the existing zoning designation for the commercial districts that we have. Regardless, in the future, whatever happens on this property would likely require both a rezone and conditional use, but we may require a zoning text amendment depending on exactly what the details of the business would be and what the requested rezone would be to determine the necessary process. So with all of that information in mind, just like to remind you that per Wisconsin statute, adoption of any amendment must be by majority approval of the entire Plan Commission. State of Wisconsin Smart Growth Law requires that all local land use decisions after January 1st, 2010 must be consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies contained within the comprehensive plan. There is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. And before we go to the commission, would the applicant like to say a few words, or you want to wait on questions? Looks like you're the applicant. Or are you representing them?
I'm just a hired gun and he's the partner.
Okay. If you guys would like to say something, or you want to wait on questions, your choice.
We can make a motion.
Oh, okay. Then I guess we'll go right to the commission with it. Dawn, I'm going to start with you.
No questions.
Ashley.
Nothing from engineering.
Okay, Chris.
No questions for me?
Don.
I have a question, just some clarity. So the current owners of the property are the ones making this request?
That's correct. The
Okay.
previous landowners had requested a rezoning and we informed them that they also needed a comprehensive plan amendment. Unfortunately, those processes never transpired. They were never pursued prior to the sale to the current applicant, the current landowner.
Understood. Thank you.
Brad?
Yeah, I'm not totally in favor of this. And the reason for it is the whole area is residential, and now I'm throwing commercial into a residential area. I have commercial on the corner, but it really doesn't help, to me, keeping it residential. So I support the residential type program that we have established in this area.
Okay,
That's it.
that's it. Jocelyn?
I do have a question for the applicant.
On up, sir. Either one, wherever you're comfortable. We'll just need your name and address for the record. Just make sure they light up red that you're on. Everybody can hear you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Attorney Michael Mastelman, and I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant who sits to my right.
Ariella Romero.
And I'm Russ LaFarboy, I'm the architect.
Okay, address, please. We'll need an address from one of you.
8989 North Port Washington Road, Milwaukee 53217. It's my law firm.
Okay, great. Jocelyn, you got the floor.
His mic wasn't working. Should we?
Just
It's okay.
press the face with the voice,
There we go.
lines.
There you go. There, does that work? Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, a question in regards to this location. Can you provide some information on why it was decided to reside or make this request to have your office in this location, which is a residential area?
So I came across the property just, we do a lot of work in the area for Oak Creek. Saw that the space was available for sale. So we looked at the space and I thought it would be a good idea to run my office from there. I liked the space and thought it was a good idea.
Okay, and then for the office area, what kind of activities will occur in this space?
So really, it's just me having an actual office to do my work. My office right now is ran from home. So I would just like a particular area to actually call my office.
Okay. And then have you all received any feedback from the residents in regards to this?
Yes.
May I approach the
Sure.
clerk? We have a petition signed. We went, I always tell my clients, go meet the neighbors, tell them what's going on so that there's no surprises and the lights at City Hall don't light up.
Sure.
Should I give this to
You
you?
can start on that end. It'll work its way down.
Thank you.
There are two homes that we went to that are vacant, so.
And just for clarity, the item that's going around, can you just provide some details
Do you want-
of?
So I went around to the houses in front of the property that we own, introduced myself, told them what I had in mind and what my business is. Asked them what they thought about it, thought it'd be great for the neighborhood. The ones that signed, 2 houses were vacant. The rest did not answer. So I was just more concerned with, I believe it's 8 houses that are in front of the area. And they all seemed to be happy with it.
Thank you.
So, it's kind of my neck of the woods. I live up that way. I'll just kind of start with the corner. There's currently a farmhouse there in the red. You'll see it. It is actually zoned business. The property we're talking about directly to its south is the property we're on. It's currently a home. It is a home, and you can see how it goes. Right next door to that is another home. And then if you look beyond that, there's a group of buildings. You can kind of make it out there. That's actually a business going on right now. And if you remember, we put in I don't want to call it an exotic car.
So
But it's already zoned business there.
Well, actually, just a little bit of clarification. The property that's identified in red on the screen is not zoned commercial yet. It's just identified for future
use.
redevelopment for commercial use. The property that is part of the comprehensive plan amendment request tonight is currently zoned RS3. And the properties that are immediately south, two properties, are part of the, I believe it's the Mayor Commercial Park, I think is what they call it. And those two properties are zoned B4. There is a conditional use permit on the larger property currently, and that is for the vehicle kind of customization business that's there.
If you remember that, they were, you know, if you're looking for a particular car. So go ahead, Carrie. Is that it? Okay, so, and then beyond that, we have the corner. It's topographically pretty steep there, but, and then going to the left is the CBRF that we dealt with on Willow. As far as it goes, fitting this comprehensive plan amendment, I'm okay with it. You just have to understand this is a multi-deal process going forward with the business, as Carrie explained. I equate this a little bit, and and I'm probably going to get in the weeds here a little bit, but if you go on Howell Avenue, south of MATC, heading south, we have Badger bus lines there, and there's some residential homes sprinkled in there as well as the corridor is changing over. There's some mix of residential and business along Howell. I kind of look at that corridor this way. So I'm really not opposed to the comprehensive plan amendment because we have so many processes going forward to make sure the business fits appropriately. Did I say that correctly, Carrie? Or am I wrong? Am I not understanding it?
To the mayor.
Yeah, usually that makes me wrong.
You can kind of think of this as comprehensive plan amendment is step one before you can proceed with step two. Step two would be requesting probably either a zoning text amendment, depending on, again, whether or not the proposed use fits in with any of the existing land use, any of the existing uses that are currently allowed in the zoning districts. If it does not require a zoning text amendment, then it would be procedure of going forward with a rezone and probably a conditional use permit request.
So we'd get a look at the business details. Right now, that's really not important. It's comprehensive plan. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, just so it's clear, there is going to be no parking of any vehicles within the sight of anywhere from the road. It's going to be in a building. Nothing's going to be taking place outside in the public area.
Get it,
Okay.
but you know, whether it's your business or whatever we do with this, it's really about the comprehensive plan
Right,
right now, not so much about the business.
Got it.
And that would be reviewed as site and building plan review. So that is a third or fourth process that would come back to the plan commission.
Yeah. So, other than that, I think I can support this going forward because we have enough control of it, you know, going on from there. I guess, and this really has nothing to do with the comprehensive plan. It would come in one of the other processes. You'd actually give up the right to have a single family home there and to occupy it, correct? If it became a business.
So the single family residential component would be removed. We would have to take a look at the zoning code depending on what the proposed use is in its entirety to determine whether or not something like a portion of it could still be used for residential quarters as part of kind of like a caretaker's quarters. This is not going to be considered a home-based business. This would be commercial if it goes forward. So it would have to comply with all of the commercial zoning district requirements.
This is going forward. I'll come back through commission. Did I overturn, throw anything out there that makes you want to question again? I have a second question. Make sure you're clear on it. Okay.
I do have a question in the
Yep.
audience.
You'd have to come to the microphone, sir. We'll need your name and address.
Sure. Good evening. I am Doug Mayer, one of the that my brother and I own the buildings just to the south of this
okay.
property. So we've actually been there since 1982.
Mhm.
And I don't know how long many of you have been here, but
Yeah.
you're probably aware that we've completely improved that property with, it was gravel when we bought it. We paved it, we sided the buildings, the block buildings had a roof put on it. It's recently, the other buildings have recently been painted. When we bought it, there was a implement dealer already there. So some sort of motor vehicle businesses have always been in that area.
Back in the day, Ash
Ash was there, and the building, the block building to the north was an Farm Implement. Yeah, I don't know what that, Tri-City or something.
Yeah.
So then when we bought this house, 7 years ago, we went through it thinking that somebody might want to make this entire parcel a bigger commercial parcel. It didn't really go that way. The one tenant wound up buying the block building, and they're actually upgrading that now. They're doing really nice there. And then we are upgrading what was the blue buildings. Now it's a gray building. So that is for sale. But I would think that having just a standalone residence in a commercial area like that would be kind of awkward for the overall future plan of the way things would go.
That's what I'm kind of saying. Everything from that corner back,
Right.
you know, not to say that we're pushing anybody out on the corner, but if they so decide to sell as the opposite corner, the north side of Drexel gets developed,
Right.
maybe a desirable corner.
I just wanted to let you know the history a little bit in case someone hadn't seen that. And with all the commercial development that's gone on there, Drexel Town Square, the IKEA side, the big fitness center and other things that are going up there, you would kind of have a standalone house there. So I don't know how that would be well suited to that area. So, no, that's all I really have to say, but I think they have good plans for the future is what I've been told. So.
Well, thank you for the input.
Certainly.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me speak.
Okay. I guess if there's no further questions, we'll entertain a motion.
Guzekowski will make a motion to approve that the Plan Commission adopts resolution 2022 -04, amending the land use plan category in the comprehensive plan, City of Oak Creek, adopted March 3rd, 2020, last amended March 1st, 2022, from single-family detached to commercial for the property at 7977 South 13th Street, following review and adoption by the plan, by the Common Council.
Hold on any seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Kaminsky, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold on, yeah.
Sleeper aye.
Chandler, aye.
Bill, aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the Plan Commission.
Yeah, continue to work with staff as you go through the process. They'll get you through it. They're
They've
really,
been very helpful, actually. So,
yeah, they always are. They're good.
Thank
So, okay. Get us to 7B, and that's review site, building, and related plans submitted by Scott Seeger, HDC Contractors LLC, on behalf of the Ashlager Dolman Post of American Legion for an accessory structure on the property at 9327 South Shepherd Avenue. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The American Legion wishes to basically install an open air pavilion over an existing paved area on the property. When I say open air, it's essentially a metal roof that's supported by posts. And the location is over an existing asphalt area currently occupied by picnic tables, so it's basically providing some shade for that area. No other changes have been proposed as part of this. However, we do note that if for any reason they would like to have this area lighted in the future, there would be some requirements in terms of electrical permits. If there are any transformers or utilities that would be required as part of that installation, they would have to be screened per code. If there's going to be, for instance, a parking lot light, there are some requirements in code for how those fixtures would have to be shielded, directed downward, shielded on the side facing the residential neighborhood, et cetera. But as of right now, there are no other changes that would be required. The location, kind of on the north side of the property, does meet all the setback requirements. Kind of highlighted it in red over on the left-hand side, if you can see my cursor here. And the structure is just a basic open air pavilion. This has more posts than they're proposing, but it's essentially kind of a quasi off the shelf, if you will. does not exceed the maximum height requirements for an accessory structure. So there is a suggested motion with a couple of conditions for Plan Commission to consider. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we go to council, applicant, you want to say a few words or you just want to wait for some questions? Okay, great. Let's start. Chauncey, you want to start us off?
Sure. I do have a question for the applicant.
Just need your name and address, sir.
Brandon Fettig, 9327 South Shepherd Ave, Oak Creek.
Sir, you have to be on the microphone.
There you go.
Brandon Fettig, 9327 South Shepherd Ave, Oak Creek.
Just a quick question. Underneath this roof or this area, are there going to be any changes to the asphalt?
Nope, there'll be no changes, just picnic tables.
Okay, thank you.
Brad?
Now, is there going to be any lighting that's going to be hung on the poles or anything?
So in the future, as she stated, we will want to do some just basic lighting inside right now because of the cost of everything, and the money that we do have to spend. This is what we can afford to do. So there's no electricity being put in, but in the future, a couple outlets and some lights inside so that at night you can see out there. But right now, we're not asking to do that.
Thank you.
Don?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions.
Ashley?
Nothing, thank you.
Don?
What's it gonna be used for?
So we get a lot of residents in Oak Creek that like to use the area for picnics, family outings. We do have one. I have a picture if you'd like to see it, if you're not familiar with the location. We already do have one that's in the lower parking lot, but this one's kind of in our park by the baseball fields. So we have picnics throughout the year. We hold our own. Other organizations, I know like Oak Creek Youth Football, the Boy Scouts, local Boy Scout troops, they come and use that area. And a lot of times they get rained out or whatnot. This way they have that area to use and doesn't ruin their event or their cookout. So that's basically it.
Perfect. Yeah, you guys do some great stuff there. Obviously, our 4th of July parade ends up there. It's right in front of that concession stand and people gather there quite a bit, you know, Lions Fest and all the big stuff they do down there. So I don't have any issues with it. So
Appreciate it.
excellent. With that being said, if there's no further discussion, motion on 7B.
Clifford moves that the planning commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Scott Seeger, HDC Contractors Incorporated for the property at 9327 South Shepherd Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that the plans are revised to include locations and screening for any new electrical, mechanical equipment, transformers, and utilities. 3, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Donnie seconds.
Roll call, beginning with me. Aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Holdani, aye.
Secret eye.
Chandler, aye. Bill, aye.
Yurshinski, aye.
Great, all done. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in. That'll get us to item C, and that's review site, building, and related plans submitted by Robert Ford, Ford Construction, Inc. for an exterior building modifications on the property at 7760 South 6th Street. Jack, you got this one?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, there's minor modifications proposed to the exterior building and site for the property. These include, for the submitted plans, adding a canopy over the westerly entrance with a banner stripe that continues to the southwest corner of the building. The painting scheme of the building is also to be updated with blue on the 2-story portion of the building on its northwest corner, gray on the southwest corner of the building, and white on the west facade in between the previously mentioned areas. And then we'll go over this later. There's a few elevations and renderings that I have included in the slides. And then also the windows are going to be replaced and the entryway on the western portion of the building. In addition, minor site modifications include concrete bollard lights near the west entrance and a new planting bed in the southwest part of the property. This is the proposed site plan for it. On the site itself, there are interior changes, but those are not part of this plan review. And this is where all the changes are occurring on the western elevation of the building. And then this is a view of the partial north elevation. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the proposed canopy and concrete bollard light. And this is a rendering of the west facade of the building. As you can see with the blue banner stripe continuing the southwest portion of the building, and then also the paint scheme that is updated. All right, with that being said, there's a suggested motion for approval for the Plan Commission to consider. Thanks.
And thank you, Jack. Applicant, any words, or you want to wait on questions if you're with us tonight? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please, and you have the floor. Got to be on the mic, Ken, as well. So it's on. Just speak and it'll activate.
Jim Morrison.
Oh, sorry, and it didn't go right on you. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Jim Warzinski, Ford Construction, 1419 Poplar Drive, Waukesha, Wisconsin. I just was gonna say, I made a mistake on the plan. I said our intent is not to do any landscaping at this time. We're just gonna restore any damage we create, building the banner stripe for the, upgrades to the front of the building.
Okay, Carrie, will the landscaping come into play here? Because I know it's included as part of the suggested motion. Or Jack? I'm not familiar
I can
with
add a
what's
little
going
to
on.
that.
Oh, yeah, name and address, please.
My name is Tom.
Oh, you turned it off.
Next one, there we go.
My name is Tom Grolowitz. I own the building. I live at 6630 West Cold Spring Road. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, we actually redid the entire landscape along the front of the building to get rid of some shrubs that had overgrown and some stuff that just wasn't fitting. So all of the landscape there is less than 2 years old. I'd like to pretty much keep it. Their intent is not to destroy it, but because of the columns, they are going to have to disturb the grass and have to put back the way it was.
Okay.
So the current look of the building from a landscape standpoint shouldn't change.
Okay. Not familiar with it, but I should be. I drive by it all the time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
the question was regarding the landscape plan requirements. Since this is a replacement situation, what we have in the code is a requirement for a minimum landscape area at the base of buildings. There has to be a minimum depth. We would just like to know that it was going to be installed as close to the code as possible. So the fact that they're putting in landscaping is only something that we can support.
Okay.
We're not going to necessarily require a revised landscape plan if it's not new, but replacement.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we just go to the commission?
Not at this time.
Okay. Start out, Dawn,
No questions here?
Ashley,
No questions, thank you.
Chris,
Pretty straightforward.
Don,
No questions.
Fred.
And what is the material that you're having for that blue stripe?
It'll be a flat panel aluminum siding. That's, the panel itself is full height, 3 feet and 10 feet long sections. And there'll be a color coordinated, blend strip between the panels. So our intent is from the street, it'll appear as a solid piece across.
Thank you.
Chauncey?
I do have a question, just to understand the color scheme. So you have the blue strip and then gray and then a different blue. Or am I
It'll be
understanding
white.
it correctly?
The center will be white and the two-story building section. The building looks like separate buildings kind of stuck together because there's been additions to it over the years. And our clients are one of the tenants of the building, and they have facilities inside the building all spread out throughout that building. And those colors are based on their corporate color logo marketing plan.
Thank you.
We also will be painting not just the west side, but we'll be painting the north side of the building. And there's a
setback section of the building that faces west as well. That will be painted to give the outward elevations a refresh, if you will.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't have much to add for it. You really answered my questions. You know, a portion of it's yellow there on the front facing west and it goes back. It is a good refresh, so it really will help, improve the industrial park there, so.
A little overdue too.
Yeah, but at least you're getting to it. We do appreciate that, you know, better you than us coming to you telling you to do it, so. Do appreciate that. Other than that, the materials all make sense. I'm good with it, so. If there's no further discussion, motion please.
I'll go. Boldani moves that the Plan Commission approves the site, building, and related plans submitted by Robert Ford, Ford Construction Company for the property at 7760 South Sixth Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that landscape plans are submitted. I'm sorry. I realized it as I was reading. All right, moving on. 2, that all mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground building, and rooftop shall be screened per code. 3, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski goes second.
Roll call, and Chris, would you begin?
Guzekowski, aye.
Boldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Bill, aye. Krasinski, aye.
Kavich, aye. Okay, that will get us to 7D, and that is a signed plan review. Review of signed plan review submitted by Robert Ford, Ford Construction Company, Inc. for the existing building on the same property at 7760 South Sixth Street. Jack?
All right, thank you again. We have 2 wall signs proposed this time for Azelis. The 2 wall signs are located on the western facade of the building. They meet all code requirements, and overall staff have no concern for the signs. Proposed is 1 7-foot by 11-foot wall sign on the west facade of the northwest corner of the building, which shows the Azelis logo and also in type the name of the business. And then additionally, there is 1 wall sign on the west facade on the southwest corner that is 4 foot by 6 inch and by 8 foot. That also shows the logo as well. Here's the 2 locations of the sign. The larger sign is shown in blue. The smaller sign is shown in yellow. You can see the outline right on the rendering of it. And then on the southwest corner of the building, that the other sign is shown in that blue outline. All right. With that being said, there's a suggested motion for approval for the Plan Commission to consider. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Jack. Guys, if you don't mind, we'll go right to commission, and if they got questions, I'll get you. Chauncey, you want to start us out?
Just one quick question. Is, with the blue strip and the 2 signs, is it supposed to be an arrow? Is that the intent? One big sign?
No, it's just supposed to make the sectional looking building kind of be continuous. They expect to have more visitors from international locations, and they wanted to make sure that they realized the whole building is what they're in.
And so will any letters or any information be posted on the little, I'm calling it a strip, the blue?
No, that'll just be the color tying the one sign, which will be white, across to the other sign, which is the corporate official logo colors.
Thank you.
Okay, Fred?
No questions.
Don?
No questions.
Chris?
It all goes together well, and it for the rebranding is what they're looking to do here, so I support it.
Ashley?
Nothing from me.
Don?
Will the sign be lit?
It will not.
I think it looks nice. So again, good refresh and, you know, really gives it a fresh, clean look. So that's all I got on that one. So, if there's And it all fits too. Usually signs, are fooling around with size and everything else. So just great job, guys. There's nothing else. Motion on 7D.
Seifert moves that the planning commission approves the signed plan submitted by Robert Ford, Ford Construction Company Incorporated, for the existing building on the property at 7760 South 6th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that all sign required permits before installation.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Don.
Hold aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Grillo, aye. Chipchinsky, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
All right, guys. We're all set. Item 7E, review site, building, landscape, and related plans submitted by Brad McLean, UW Credit Union for a financial institution with drive-through facilities on the property at 7902 South Main Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually a location in Drexel Town Square. It is right on the corner of Drexel and Main Street. One of the last 2 remaining parcels to be developed in Drexel Town Square. There was a conditional use permit that was approved by the Common Council in November of last year for the financial institution with drive-through facilities. On the screen right now is the proposed site plan, and for those who are not entirely familiar with it, this property had always been intended to kind of share a common parking lot with the existing developed parcel to the east, which currently has the Mattress Firm and PetSmart building on it. So this plan reflects that, that future plan that has always been in place. So it'll kind of feel almost like one seamless parking lot, one area for the common flow of traffic, if you will. So the site plans and the building plans are generally in conformance with the general development plan and regulating plan for Drexel Town Square. It does meet the dimensional and setback requirements. There are 2 zones that are of particular importance in Drexel Town Square for this particular property. One is the mixed building and landscape zone, the MLZ, which is along Drexel Avenue, and the other is the Build 2 zone, which is along Main Street. Now, the difference between the 2, the mixed building and landscape zone are for those kind of corner parcels, particularly where there might be some variation in exactly where the building is going to go. So as far as the building can go to meet that Build 2 zone on that area, that's where we want it to go. But because there are easements in along the front, the north property line along Drexel Avenue, the building has to be kind of pulled back a bit. There's also topography that requires that the building be pulled back a bit. In that case, where the building can't meet the Build 2 zone, the landscaping comes in, and we will talk about the landscaping later. Along Main Street, the building, as far as it possibly can, has been sited such that it can meet that Build 2 zone along Main Street. Again, there's some topography considerations, the design of the building itself, easements along the north side as well. There's site distance considerations, and also there is a reservation for a community feature on the south side of the building because the operational needs of the credit union do not require the entire length of Main Street to be constructed with building. Now, we are going to be planning for that future public amenity on the south side. That will be something that the city works with the applicant and the landowner to kind of come up with. There's discussions happening right now, but nothing that we can provide the Plan Commission at this time. So it's a reservation. As far as parking is concerned, the approximate parking supply and demand requirements in Drexel Town Square are 3.5 to 5 stalls for every 1,000 gross square feet of building. And as part of the conditional use permit review, while this is a 6,000 gross square foot building, it was recognized that only about 4,000 gross square feet of the building would be accessible to the public. And it was based on that we were kind of looking at what the parking requirements would be. in addition to the number of maximum employees that would be on site at any given time, which is 12. So based on those calculations, about 26 to 32 parking stalls would be required just for UW Credit Union. But as we mentioned earlier, this is going to be a kind of connected parking lot that would fulfill more than just the credit union's parking requirements. They also have provided 3 bike racks for parking on the southeast portion, kind of just southeast of the building. So you can accommodate about 6 bikes with those racks. Overall, there are 73 new parking stalls that are shown on the plans. Staff mentioned in the report, we'd like to reiterate here that because these are all two-way drive aisles, we encourage highly that there would be some kind of striping that would be installed to alert drivers where pedestrian crossings are likely to occur. Just skip ahead to the landscape plans, just to kind of get everybody oriented here. Again, talking about the mixed building and landscape zone. So what we're really trying to do is create an aesthetic here while meeting the requirements of the landscape plans for Drexel Town Square. We do have very specific landscaping requirements as part of the guidelines as part of Drexel Town Square that we do feel that the spirit and the intent of are fulfilled with these plans, although the details might need to be tweaked a little bit. For instance, especially along Drexel Avenue, the parking stalls that are proposed there, we want to make sure that the landscaping is installed such that the installation height and the mature height are at least 3 feet on average. So some of the plantings are a little bit less than that in the proposal, so we just need to have those kinds of things tweaked. There were no other real concerns that we had initially with the review of these plans. However, the plans are a little bit in flux at the moment with regard to exact locations of monument signs, which are not part of this review tonight. They will be part of a future review, and transformers, which we find anyway. But wherever those end up being cited, we need to have plans that show those exact locations. Right now, some of the plans don't necessarily match, and that's fine. We understand that those are going to be changed slightly. Also, on the south side, there is not quite the same kind of requirement in terms of screening for those parking stalls because that's not a public street. That's actually kind of an access alley in between this parcel and the Forge and Flair buildings to the south. It kind of goes all the way through, wraps around. It's not part of Town Square Way, so that label, a little bit misleading on the plans. It's not a public street. So as part of the overall maintenance and operations for the facility and the site, we'll see this in the elevations that we're about to go through, but the trash enclosure and an outdoor storage area have actually been integrated into the building. So that's why you don't see a separate trash enclosure structure on the site plans themselves. We do need to have in revised plans prior to any permit applications being made, clear identification of all proposed exterior building materials. We did have some questions because they weren't necessarily specific. There was something called an alternate masonry. We do need to know exactly what that is. We also need to know what the masonry dimensions are so that we know that they meet the minimum code requirements. As was mentioned during the conditional use permit review, this location will have ITMs. They will not have traditional drive-through facilities, so those are disconnected. They're video teller machines. Initially, these will function more as ATMs, but there will be potentially in the future the opportunity to have them as remote video systems so that they are actually utilized almost like the traditional kind of pneumatic tube system where you're talking to somebody off-site, possibly even in the building, but there's no direct connection there with a tube system. It's like an ATM, you do your transactions that way, but you still have the video capability to talk to someone live. Hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30, Saturday 9 to 1, and then closed on Sunday, but those ITMs will be accessible 24/7, 365. There is also one walk-up ITM on the east side of the building. So that is not considered a drive-through because it's literally something that you have to get out of your car to go up to the building and use. And again, signs on the building will be reviewed at a later date. They're scheduled for the July 12th Plan Commission meeting, so they're just here kind of as placeholders, but keep that in mind for a future review. We also have lighting locations and details. We just need to make sure that the proposed poles and fixtures meet those that have already been approved for use in Drexel Town Square. We do have an approved lighting plan. We do have an approved pole and fixture that must be used in this location, as with other locations in Drexel Town Square. Now, they did provide those details. There was one plan that included an alternative fixture and an alternative pole, and alternative pole height, and those are not approved as part of Drexel Town Square. One other thing to mention, in the landscape plans, just because it's a little bit easier to see, there is a ramp that's, there's a stairway that's proposed off of Main Street, and then there's a stairway connecting on the east side of the retaining wall that has landscaping in front of it and behind it to connect to Drexel Avenue. And while the building does have kind of like a sidewalk on the south side where it's level with Main Street and that'll connect to the public sidewalk, staff made a recommendation that one of those proposed stairways be either removed or changed, preferably to a ramp system. We recognize that there are topography issues and there might not be the exact grade that would be required in order to make a ramp work in that location. Just trying to make sure that we have adequate ADA accessibility. Not saying that it doesn't have it already, but it would be nice to have that connection to the front of the building to go around to where the entry is right now. If anybody enters from the Main Street side, they would have to go around the building. It's a little bit longer of an area to get to it, but that's just a recommendation. And unless there are any objections by the Plan Commission, future revisions to the landscape plans would be approved by the Director of Community Development, unless the Plan Commission wants to see those at a future date. Turning now to the building. This is the proposed north elevation. This is what would be seen immediately from Drexel Avenue. Now, the area that I have highlighted in blue or outlined in blue, the reason that I call your attention to it is because there is a super graphic. It's a vinyl outline of the U logo that is proposed to wrap around the north and northwest corner along to the west side on the windows. We are, as staff, recommending that that super graphic be considered part of the building architecture rather than a sign. The reason we want to do that is because, one, the sign would be an incredible variance. And number two, if we were to approve a sign of that size wrapping around the front corner, it may actually, not saying it would, but it would have the potential, since we cannot regulate content of a sign, to end up blocking the windows if it were to be changed out in the future. We've looked at this with other building modifications in Drexel Town Square. This is how we kind of address those to allow something like this to happen while still having a little bit of control over making sure that the glazing requirements in Drexel Town Square are maintained. Otherwise, the materials on the building are, mostly glass on this facade. The lighter gray represent the storefronts. It's clear glazing. Some of the windows are as tall as 22 feet, maybe a little bit taller. Some are 14 feet, the shorter one on the northeast corner. Then there's a stone wall that kind of separates those two glass areas, and there's the red kind of canopy structure is a metal canopy. Set a little bit farther back, but still seen from the north, is the brick component. We will see that better on the west elevation. East is actually the entry elevation, so that red metal canopy component kind of wraps around the front corner. To your entryway, there's the location of the walk-up ATM. It's not really, you can't really tell the exact depth and dimension of the building, but those shorter elements where the windows are seen, that's actually kind of sticking out from the building. So the building does have articulation on this facade as well. The gray panel in between the two brick areas, that's actually spandrel. And the southeast portion of this is the trash enclosure and the exterior, excuse me, the exterior storage area. Again, integrated into the architecture of the building, pretty seamless. The only question that staff had is the enclosure doors appear to be brick or this alternate material, so we just need to have clarification on that. South elevation, again, we have the articulation and undulation. These two doors are not exactly technically entry doors. On the southwest corner, that is a door that goes into and out of the break room for employees. So that's not an entry. The secondary door that's on the southeast, however, that actually connects a corridor into interior. So that may be considered potentially a secondary or an emergency door. Again, brick and glass material. There's a rain screen metal perforated kind of artistic element in the three panels here, just providing some depth and some change to this south elevation. Also on the south elevation, just kind of giving you the idea of what, because there's different heights of the building, what the northern portion actually looks like on the south end. So it incorporates some windows on that top element there. Wrapping around to the west side, this is what would be seen from Main Street. And again, that super graphic wraps around that west corner. These are what the ITMs are proposed to look like, but this is for reference only. The reason that staff didn't choose to incorporate these particular plans into your packets for consideration is because this is mostly signage. They're mostly sign elements. The materials are really inconsequential here. So these are going to be presented a couple of variations for the Plan Commission to consider at the July 12th meeting, but wanted you to get an idea of what those ITMs would really look like, potentially. Materials as outlined in the plans are on the screen at the moment. Again, we just need to know what the alternate material is, have a couple of clarification items on here. Just want to make sure that everything meets the minimum dimensional requirements. Finally, we have some renderings for you. This is what would be seen kind of going westbound on Drexel Avenue. This is the entry point, kind of looking as you're going into Main Street. A little bit more of a realistic view of what the building is going to look like as you're entering Main Street. The only thing that's missing here is the super graphic. With all of that in mind, there is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. There is two parts to this motion because there are several conditions to consider. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we start, applicant, you want to address anything or just wait on questions?
To answer any questions.
Okay, he's indicated he'll just wait on questions. Chauncey, you want to start us out?
Surely, I do have a question for the applicant.
David Iwanowski with Key Architecture, 3220 Sain Road in Madison.
My question is in regards to the entrances and exits. Can you provide a little more information on which doors are
Sure.
either of the two?
Carrie pointed to the this elevation, which is facing the parking lot towards the east, it's the doors to the right by the red waterfall piece that are the main entrance to the building. Because of code requirements, there is another exit that serves as an emergency exit, but for security purposes, the credit union wants to limit public entrances to one location.
Okay, so that's the one location for your customers.
Correct. The members would come in through those doors, yes.
Okay, and then the entrance and exits for the employees?
Right. Those would typically be locked from the exterior. So the only way to get back in would be with card key access, which the staff and cleaning staff and others would have access to.
And where are these doors?
Those are on the south elevation of the building, facing south towards this building, actually. So, yes.
So one door is an entrance and one is an
Yes.
exit?
The elevation you see here, the door to the left, which is in the southwest corner, is an exit for the employee break room, so they can have access to the public space to the south. And then the other one is the emergency exit required by code, which is accessed by a corridor that goes by the toilet rooms.
And then another question in regards to the pedestrians that will be in the walkway where the parked cars are. Carrie identified there will be some crossing areas for pedestrians. Can you provide a little more information on that as well?
Sure. Now, we understand the intent of making sure that there's clear delineation. Exactly where those crosswalks go, I think, is something we'd be happy to talk to staff about. But certainly member safety is a top priority for the credit union, as well as others who might be using the parking lot. As is pointed out, there's more parking here than the credit union needs, but we understand that this is part of a larger development, so there'll be members and non-members using the space. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Fred?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the island that you have in the center. I just see some potential problems of the traffic flow, because you're going to go past the entrance of your building, and not only the exit, but the entrance coming into it for your parking area. So your area seems to be a little crowded right in that portion. If you look at it, cars going through the island area and then finishing and coming past, going south to get out of the facility, and you have traffic coming in at the same time. The traffic flow seems to be a little tight with your parking, both coming and going, and maybe you want to move the island, your tellers to the east a little more and open that area so that you have a better traffic flow. I just see some potential problem of people coming in and also coming out and trying to park right next to the building. So if you look at that, I may be wrong, but the traffic flow looks a little tight.
do provide adequate stacking space in there, but it's not unlike some of the other facilities that the credit union has, where they have drive up, whether it's attached to the building or other tellers. But we will we'll look at that and involve our civil engineer as well as staff. So.
But do you get the idea?
There's
traffic of going in and coming out.
Right.
That's it.
Okay, Don?
Fred beat me to the punch. This second time through here, the having this smack in the middle just does not make sense to me. Yeah, get it away from the building a little bit. I don't know. I don't care for it. Then you got those two little islands to the east that seem just, I understand what they're doing there, but it just seems like a lot of wasted space. Carrie, was this, how did the conversations go with this plan?
So So there've been many conversations amongst staff and the applicant's consultants with regard to these plans. There have been a few iterations as well. And while we do appreciate the comments regarding the traffic flow, I think there were some, minor concerns from staff as well with regard to the two-way traffic, particularly where we see the entry for the ITMs. The connection points that kind of flow between the two parking lots for this site and the PetSmart and Mattress Firm site, we have less concern about because there's a different entry and exit point to connect there as well. But as far as the circulation is concerned, do we want to make sure that it's signed so that around the entry points to those ITMs, people can't be going into it from two ways and only allowed to go in, entering it from a single direction so that maybe you don't have that conflict there? I think that's something that staff can support, but it would be something that we would be talking to, with the applicant's consultants to address.
Yeah, I don't know if this would have to be an extra condition if we were to an add-on. To me, it just would, it seems to make more sense if you somehow looped around and entered the drive-through from the other way so people can move straight out, never even going by close to the entrance. So they're, you know what I mean? Here, they go through, they have to loop more closer to the building to leave. I would like to see it almost flipped where once they come out through that drive-through, they're going straight or somehow going more straight to the street to the exit of the parking lot. That just makes, otherwise, if you're making them come close to the building, you just might have it attached to the building like the old school drive-throughs. I don't know. I'd like to see more, unless you feel like the conversation's been completely exhausted on this and this is the only way to make sense, because I'm not an engineer. And man, it just, to me, that it doesn't pass the eye test. That's all I'm saying. And if it is possible to look at this and come up with just a better way, I would, I would like to see other options with that.
Can I make a comment on that, please?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Cheryl Weisensell, 3500 University Avenue in Madison. These ITMs, they have a screen on them. We always try to face them east. It just makes it so much easier with the sun for members to be able to use it. Otherwise, we get the sun glare off of them. So if possible, and that's probably one of the big reasons why we have them positioned that way, so the screens face east.
Okay, what about in the evening when the sun's going down or in the morning when, the opposite time of the day?
It's so true, but the car a lot of times blocks that a little bit better on where the sun is coming up, And we do have a lot more traffic, more to the afternoon, evening timeframes.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm sure you do. And I'm not sure if all your other places where you have this set up have the same kind of parking lot. I'm guessing no, it's probably a little different everywhere.
No,
right?
it certainly offers challenges by trying to maximize the parking to meet the Drexel Town Square requirements for shared parking.
Or flipping it, 90 degrees or just, asking that traffic to just have to loop around close to the building where people are just coming and going and walking across. It just, it doesn't, it just doesn't jive with me. That's my opinion. That's all I got to say on that.
Okay, Chris?
I think I agree with the other commissioners with the traffic flow. Otherwise, the building, while I don't support it because I haven't supported it from the beginning on our original time through, it still looks good. So they did a good job with how it looks. So that's all I have to say.
Nothing from me.
Nothing additional.
You guys pointed out the parking, just on the Main Street side, topography wise, it's going to change. Will it be a retaining wall, poured wall there as elevations change? And are the setbacks being met? I thought we talked a little bit about where they had to be off the road and sidewalk.
So I will turn it over to David in just a moment, but there are retaining walls, and that's mostly on the north side. It is screened with vegetation. There is one that's also on the west side. But with regard to the topography and the requirements for setbacks and things like that, because Drexel Avenue is an MLZ, a mixed building and landscape zone, we do feel that with the building and the landscaping being where they are, it does fulfill the spirit and intent of that MLZ. And because the building is very, very close to Main Street, that fits with the requirements for the Build to zone along Main Street. That means that the building has to be as close as possible to that front or west property line. So those two, we feel, are in compliance. But as far as the retaining wall is concerned, I will turn it over to David for that question.
Sure. Thanks, Carrie. I don't know if you can bring up the west elevation of the building, but that shows the fact that Main Street slopes from south to north, and obviously our building has a level floor. So in order to take up that change in grade, which starts nominally on the right-hand side at grade to the south, and since it's close to the sidewalk, which we can't really change, there will be a low retaining wall there that you see at the bottom of the picture. And then just to the left is where those steps were that Carrie mentioned. So someone walking either south on Main Street from Drexel could go up those steps and go to the front door, or somebody walking along Main Street could come in that way as well. So, and the material would be cast in place concrete. That would be a sandblasted finish, so it's going to be a fitting base to the building. And then on the north side, the landscape plan, again, as Carrie mentioned, in order to create kind of a platform, if you will, for the building, so it isn't just sloped down to Drexel Avenue, there is a low retaining wall about 2 feet tall that has a stone similar to what's on the building. And I think that may be where there was some discussion that we need to have, Carrie, about what that actual material is, since I know there are some prescribed materials within Drexel Town Square that are either recommended or required. But that would be a low retaining wall that you see along the north side.
Oh, you do have landscape plans up. So there'll be some landscaping on the west side as well along there, retaining wall.
Yes.
I know there's not a lot of room there, but
there isn't, and it may not be real clear here, but the property line actually jogs and the sidewalk jogs, so we tried to get the building as close as we could without, disturbing the existing topography and paving.
okay. Assistant Chief Havey, anything from fire? Any concerns? I mean, we kind of went in about the parking, and I know there's a shared lot and a secondary access, but any thoughts?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Assistant Chief Mike Avey, Fire. As far as the access, we don't have any typical concerns. The building itself, non-combustible material, square footage, we're unsure of that with the developer, if it'll require a suppression system. It appears it probably wouldn't, based on the square footage that was proposed, but no other major concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Are they putting air conditioning units, heating units on the roof? We know they got to be screened. Are they going to be ground units?
No, the only thing that would be on the ground would be an electrical transformer, which is pretty typical. The landscape plan does show screening around it, which sounds like we may need to coordinate a little bit. But all of the other equipment is on the roof. And in this case, that south wall that you see in the elevation is masonry. It's brick, and it's taller to screen all of that equipment. There are some louvers in it to provide ventilation, but it's that left-hand portion that you see. So rather than enclosing it in some kind of metal or other material, we're actually carrying the brick up there to enclose it in brick. So
That's all I really have. If there's no further discussion.
I do have one additional
Yes.
question. In regards to the two sets of stairs, will one be converted to a ramp?
We would like to talk about it if the goal is to provide another accessible entrance. Because of the grade change, it would take about 45 feet of length in order to take up that change in grade. So that was the reason why we didn't do it. It's about 3.5 feet, 3 to 3.5 feet. So if you meet the ADA requirements of a 1 in 12 slope, you have to have length and then a landing and then more length. So we understand that accessibility is an issue. I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about what the impact would be on the site. We just recently,
No, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we just recently opened another branch facility in Bayview that has ramps, and it's possible to do that, but it has a real impact in terms of the site planning. In that case, we provided ramps and adjacent stairs, so members have the option to do either.
I would think, not that it's gonna be 100%, but most people would park in the designated spots and enter through the parking lot from the east, correct?
Well, and as Carrie pointed out, there is an accessible route through the sidewalk to the south of the building, as well as accessible parking immediately adjacent. So we do provide that access. It's just, if it's going to be required from the north, we would have to do it in a different way.
Thank you.
There's nothing else. Motion on 70.
Or is there gonna be any more discussion about the parking lot? I mean, is there something we can do there with the motion to at least explore a better option? Or is that what you were working on? Sorry, Carrie.
On the fly.
The additional condition that says that site plans are revised to incorporate traffic flow comments provided by the Plan Commission at the meeting.
I'm fine with that.
Proper identification.
All right, we're looking for a motion. Oh, she's, tough lot, to say the least.
While is looking at that, one thing to note, the way that they have it set up now, if you would only be changing the way that you enter those ITMs, you'd be creating more of a conflict point at that driveway where you come in and out. Like right now, it's kind of circular where you come in and you kind of come out. If you would just strictly flip that, you would be creating, you'd have to make a left-hand turn almost kind of to go across incoming traffic to leave. So I guess that's one drawback that I would see if you would just strictly flip the way that people are coming in and out of that ITM area. Not that I'm saying that there aren't any other options, but just strictly modifying that entrance and exit point, I think may cause some more issues entering the actual parking lot.
And I mean, that was literally wasn't my solution. Of course, as Dan just said, doing this on the fly is tough. I fully understand it would take some discussion and, throwing ideas around if you did want to change it. That's not my job, and I'm sure people don't want to hear my suggestions on that. I was just hoping for something better, I guess, in my mind. That's it.
Just one question, and maybe Commissioner Kupczynski can weigh in on whether or not this would be a viable solution. What if the traffic pattern was only, and I don't really know how you do this other than signage, and it would be on everybody's honor apparently, but restricting the entry and exit for the ITMs only, by saying you can only enter into the ITM as coming through this entry point, not from the parking lot, so you don't have that conflict where two people are kind of cross entering. And then also requiring that anybody exiting the ITM go one way or the other. They can't go both ways to exit. Again, that would probably be done only with signage, but would that be something that would possibly cut down on the conflict?
I mean, if this is the layout that ultimately would work the best, I think that would be a viable solution, you know, to try to work it with signage and kind of, and limit that, you know, and I don't know, like, what kind of percentage of people, you know, are parking in that location and are walking up to the building versus the amount of traffic that you do get that goes through those ITMs. You know, I don't know if that may weigh into any of those decisions either.
I guess I'm going to say for member wise, you know, if we have a good peak time, it'll probably be about 10 cars for members. It's not like there is necessarily a lot of cars parked here because we, you know, with appointments and such, and a lot of the transactions can happen at the ITMs, unlike how we used to have it with the drive-through, and then we would have a lot of traffic coming through that way.
I do agree with Carrie. I mean, if you can kind of eliminate the amount of traffic flow in between the building and that ITM, that would definitely be a benefit.
Carrie, since we're throwing around ideas, I mean, one of the suggestions we were saying was pushing that thing to the east. Why not have a second entrance? So anyone just using those machines, a little more to the east, go through the machine, go in, come out. People wanting to park are naturally everyone tries to park closest to the building. I think that's natural. They come in where you have the entrance now. They park close to the building. The machines are more to the east. You're coming in and out there. You don't have that crossover between the people trying to park and walk into the building and the people going through the machines.
Well, keep in mind too, that the access point is off of essentially an alley. It's not a public street where the entry is. So putting an additional driveway there may, one, reduce the number of parking stalls, which may not be a bad thing. But two, it's causing another choke point on an alleyway. Because there is an entrance for the parking lot to the south for that Forge and Flare building for the tenants there. So you've got traffic flow considerations there as well.
Okay.
So what I kind of crafted was that site plans are revised to incorporate comments from the Plan Commission regarding traffic flow pattern.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm sorry, did you change that on the?
No.
Okay, then I didn't write that down, sorry.
We can give it to you if you add it as a condition at the end.
Yeah, all right, we'll do it that way. I guess that means I'm making the motion.
At number 9.
All right, are we good?
Yep.
All right, Aldani moves that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plan submitted by Brad McLean, UW Credit Union for the property of 7902 South Main Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements are in effect. 2, that the plans are revised to incorporate details for all proposed exterior buildings, building materials and percentages per elevation. 3, that the exterior brick, masonry, and stone veneers meet the minimum 3-inch requirement per code. 4, that detailed plans for signage are reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission prior to submission of sign permit, sign permit applications. Thanks. 5, that All parking lot lights meet the DTSMU PDD approved specifications, pole height, fixture color, that all light sources are shielded and directed downward, and that the color temperature of the fixtures are limited to a maximum of 3,500 kelvins. 6, that the landscape plans are revised to incorporate staff comments and code requirements. 7, that the plans are revised to include locations for all mechanicals, transformers, and utilities. All mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground, building, and rooftop shall be screened from view. 8, that all detailed, revised, and finalized plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications. And 9,
That the site plans are revised to incorporate plan commission comments regarding traffic flow patterns.
as stated by Carrie.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call beginning with Fred.
Seifert, aye.
Sharon Blair, aye.
Bill, I. Shinsky, I.
David Chai.
Guzekowski, no.
Ladani, aye.
Okay. You're all set. Thank you, sir.
very much.
Have a nice weekend and enjoy the 4th.
You too.
That will get us to the addendum, and that is old business, and that is 8A, and that is review site, building, landscape, and related plans by Matt Coles, Global Schoolwear for a single tenant office and warehouse building at 200 West Park View Parkway. Carrie.
Oh, the Oakview Parkway, sir.
Oakview, what did I say?
Parkview. That's all right.
Sorry. Getting to be a long night.
So this is a review of site building and landscaping plans for the proposed global schoolwear office and warehouse facility that were held at the last meeting on the 14th with regard to a couple of concerns raised by staff and also echoed by the Plan Commission, primarily amongst them being the wetlands and the comments received from the DNR. Those wetland impacts are kind of crucial to the development of the parcel, although we do have some revised plans that we've been in receipt of between yesterday and today. So that's why you have multiple new pieces of information before you. So we'll get into that. Other considerations that staff had raised before the Plan Commission at the last meeting were with regard to stormwater management, the building material and design, landscaping and screening, and some additional requested information for details. So the proposal is for a 75,000 roughly square foot single tenant warehouse and office building. This will be the consolidated headquarters for Global Schoolwear. They're looking to move here from their existing location in Illinois. We have not necessarily received new information from DNR directly. However, in the last couple of days, we've had many conversations with the applicants and their consultants regarding these revised plans. We have not at staff level had an opportunity to kind of review these plans in any kind of depth that we would prefer before presenting them to you. However, there was a request that the Plan Commission be provided these plans and that the applicant have the opportunity to discuss them with you. So that's why they're here before you tonight. We are of the understanding that the revised plans are kind of incorporating both staff comments and upper level staff comments, as well as some conversations with the DNR directly. With that regard, the wetland impacts are reduced in the plans that are presented to the Plan Commission this evening, to the point that some of the wetlands are actually not disturbed at all. There were retaining walls that were previously presented to kind of deal with some grading issues. However, staff is preliminarily accepting of a 3-to-1 slope instead of a 4-to-1 slope to eliminate the requirement for retaining walls in this proposal. We did receive comments back from the Army Corps of Engineers. They are not taking jurisdiction over these wetlands. So it would just be DNR approval that we would need for any impacts to these wetlands, be it now or in the future. So with that in mind, should a detailed modification request be submitted for anything with regard to the site or the building, the Plan Commission does have the authority to review a modification request and grant any kind of modification of the zoning code requirements with regard to the building or the site, not setbacks. If supplemental design elements or improvements are incorporated into the project which compensate for the modifications of the particular standard, that would require 3/4 majority approval of the Plan Commission. Not necessarily saying that that would be a requirement here tonight, but again, if a modification request is necessary, it is something that the Plan Commission does have the authority to consider. We're just not sure at this point whether or not these revised plans that have been submitted need a modification request any longer, but that's what was incorporated into the staff report. So, who's Global Schoolwear? Global Schoolwear is a national uniform distributor, and again, they are relocating their headquarters here. So this is something that is a new business to the city of Oak Creek, and it is one of the last parcels in Oakview Business Park that's available from West Park at this point for development. There is a corner that the city has acquired and is, kind of looking to have a development on that corner of Howell and Oakview, but that's something that we can talk about once that gets developed. Proposed hours for Global Schoolwear, because they are related to the school season, a little bit different. So we have peak and non-peak season, not peak and non-peak hours or shifts. During peak, we have a first shift that would be from June to September, and that would be 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And a second shift would be 3:30 to 12:30 in the morning. In non-peak, that would be October through May. The hours are 8 to 4:30, and there would be no second shift. They are anticipating about 25 employees during non-peak times and 60 during the first shift during peak season and up to 30 for second shift during peak season. Minimum parking requirements for warehouse operations are 1 for every 1,500 gross square feet and 1 for every 300 gross square feet of office space. So about 60 parking stalls would be required. They're providing 76. Or at least that was in the previous iteration of the plans. Not sure if that's been reduced at all. Outdoor storage would be restricted to parking of trucks in the docks on the west side of the building. There is a screen wall that is proposed in the plans. However, the proposed height is 8 feet. In the previous staff report, we had recommended a minimum height of 13 feet to be kind of in line with what the other buildings in Oakview Business Park have for their screen walls for the docks. Some of them go as high as 16 to 17 feet. We would still recommend that it be at 13 feet as opposed to 8, but we understand that there is a request for the 8 feet in these revised plans as well. It serves 2 purposes. One, to kind of screen portions of the docks, as well as provide one of the walls for the trash enclosure. In these revised plans, we did get some details as to the gate for the trash enclosure, which is now proposed to be, I believe, chain link. That kind of material is actually not allowed for trash enclosures, so we would request that that be amended to something more like just a metal gate. It can just not anything combustible, but also not chain link, because that's something that's not allowed by code. We do also have some landscape plans that may need some revision. We did receive new landscape plans today. We do need to have the minimum height of the screening to be 3 feet. There may be some other revisions that would be required once we have an opportunity to review those a little bit more in depth. With regard to the building itself, unfortunately, this is still an old floor plan. It doesn't incorporate the recesses and projections that have been added to the exterior of the building, but the interior, I believe, has not changed. So the office portion is on that southeast corner. The elevations, however, have changed. The incorporation of additional Nichiha panels in those colors that are blue for the kind of columns, if you will. Those are actually projections from the building, so they stand out from the white concrete walls. And the office component is kind of a two-tier Nichiha panel contrast there. So on the east elevation, which is what would be seen as you're coming into and south on Oakview Parkway, the total facade area of the east elevation is just under 9,800 feet. And Nichiha panels and glass are comprising about 52%. We don't know the difference between the glass versus the Nichiha, but combined it's 52% or 5,000 square feet. And the painted concrete is about 4,700 feet. The elevation on the north does not appear to have changed from what was included in the original packets for the Plan Commission. This is concrete wall. The reason for the north elevation being a little bit not incorporating the materials changes or the articulation in the facade is because there is the potential in the future for an expansion on this side of the building. That's not for Plan Commission consideration at this juncture. The west elevation only incorporates the concrete panels and the dock doors, as well as the trash enclosure. The south, which would be the kind of seen from the other, since this is a corner parcel, the Oakview Parkway curves around. This is what would be seen from the south side of the street. Again, Nichiha columns kind of project out from the building, the incorporation of windows here as well, and that office component. The south elevation contains the single entry point into the office component, which is identified with a canopy over the entry. I believe that the other door on the east side is probably more of an emergency or a secondary entry point. And again, the screen wall is included on this elevation, incorporated into that facade. And the breakdown of materials, the total length of the facade, about 11,700 feet. Nichiha panels are proposed to be about 4,900 square feet, and the precast comprises the rest at about 6,800. So we do have a requirement for any rooftop mechanical units to be screened, and because of the addition of these Nichiha columns, they have been kind of raised up from the roof as well to provide that roof variation. Those would be used to screen any rooftop mechanical units. They must be screened per code in terms of, when we did receive some elevation kind of sight distances from the road, but just to be clear, they do have to be completely screened by those rooftop elements or by screening materials that would be approved by our department. Any ground level transformers, utility boxes, all of those things would still be required to be screened through landscaping or any kind of wall fencing material, again, per code. On the screen right now is a rendering. This is an updated rendering of what was incorporated into those revisions. And with those revised plans, recognizing that staff may need to kind of provide a little bit more direction to the applicant's consultants with regard to code changes, they would be fairly minor, we believe. The suggested motion considers some of those conditions from the previous staff report. But again, once staff has an opportunity to kind of review these plans in a little bit more depth, there may be some more changes that would be required. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we start, applicants, you guys have waited patiently. Is there anything you guys would like to state before we get going?
We can take questions.
Okay. All right. Dawn, how about starting on your end?
No specific question at this time.
Ashley?
Nothing from me.
Chris?
It's a good looking, building and I think I had no other questions.
Hey, Don?
Yeah, I think it's always tough when you get staff, concerns. 10, I think it's 10 conditions. Staff's talked multiple times about looking deeper into some stuff. I just wondering if you can give me a little background, Carrie, why this came back with so many concerns again, unless that was the wish of the applicant, I guess.
Well, the initial staff report didn't change from what was presented to the Plan Commission because we, at the time, didn't have any additional information to provide to you. The revised plans, again, came in yesterday and today, so staff just haven't had an opportunity to review them. The applicant and their consultants did request that the Plan Commission consider these plans and consider the information that's been provided from the DNR to the applicants and their consultants to give you an update, especially considering that was what the major concern was at the last Plan Commission meeting. There is a timing element to this particular application. They are requesting that the Plan Commission give their consideration due to that timing element. I don't want to speak for them, but these are the pieces of information that have been received by staff. So I did forward you all of that communications that you did have that before you, so that you got everything that we got essentially, so you can make your decisions.
Right. I understand that. I appreciate that. As you know, we rely heavily on staff's input. We're here to review it, but they're the ones that are to review it with the tweezers, not us, and give it to us today. I mean, no offense, but it's a little unreasonable on our end to try to make heads and tails without the expert opinions of our staff.
No, and just kind of let me elaborate on it. We talked about this at a small leadership meeting a little bit in greater detail 2 weeks ago. Part of it is a timing issue with the applicant, Spancrete, the whole thing's there. Part of the thing that really held it up was this wetlands question that came out of the DNR. It's really not so much DNR question, it's my understanding, but they came in, proposed the building on the site, and in the meantime, remember when we all went through the zoning code? And we changed the setbacks? So now they were approved, and then we changed it midstream on their building.
Mr. Mayor?
Am I misquoting?
The zoning code had been going through the process before that, so I would just say that there were some concerns at staff level with regard to the plans that were received, and we had several common conversations and we were working through them, and I would just leave it at that.
Okay, so they're still working through, but it looks like the wetlands have become less of an issue, but you still got to wait on that. So it's really a timing issue, and the applicant really felt they wanted to get through the process rather than hold it up.
And with regard to the building, the site, the questions that staff had, there were more conversations that needed to occur with regard to the architecture, some of the code requirements, et cetera. Again, those revisions came in a bit late. We did take a look at them briefly. They do appear to incorporate many of the comments received. We just don't know if there are additional minor changes that would be required in order to fully comply with code. Staff would have, honestly preferred a little bit more, time to look at these, but again, understand that there is a timing element to this. So this was placed on the agenda for Plan Commission consideration at the request of the applicant.
I guess the question is staff comfortable with going forward with this with all the conditions? I mean, are you confident they're going to work with you through this? And because I do notice, and it's pointed out, that one of our options is to put a hold. I'm pretty sure no one probably wants that. Is a hold where they have to reapply?
No, a hold is not where they have to reapply. A hold is just the plan commission deciding that they're not going to make a determination until additional information is submitted and then reviewed at the next meeting or a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
It's not a denial. It's simply no decision made at this time. It's tabling the decision.
I don't want to deny it, and, but I want staff to be confident if it's passed. I guess that's what I would like, not to put you on the spot, but we could pass it and put you on the spot too, to make sure things are getting done. It's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, the way I see it.
I think staff's major consideration with this is just timing. We've just not had enough time to look at the plans. So we can say, glancing at them, they look like they're moving in the right direction. But don't know whether or not, again, there would be any requirements outside of the conditions that we presented to you, or maybe even modified conditions that would be necessary in order to make those plans more code compliant. I just don't have that information. So, yeah, like I said, they look like they're going in the right direction. I just don't know whether or not these specific conditions get at everything.
Okay. I'm not even going to get into specific questions right now. I'm more concerned about how we're going to make the motion. I would like to hear the other commissioners' take on what they think we should do. So I'm just going to stop there.
Which was I going, Fred?
Okay, I just had a question for the applicant, and that's dealing with the DNR. Do you feel that there's any problem that we may encounter with the DNR or the Army Corps of Engineering?
Riz Iskandarsa with JSD Professional Services. Couple of items came in since 2 weeks ago when we were here. So the Army Corps sent us a letter, and I forwarded to you, Carrie, that they're not taking jurisdiction over it. So it's a state wetland. So we just have to deal with DNR. And then secondly, we also received an approval for notice of intent for grading permit from the DNR. So that's the erosion control department of the DNR, not the wetland fill department. So one department is approving the wetland fill by allowing us to grade into it, but not officially. We are working with that additional information letter that the DNR requested for the wetland fill, and some of the items that they want us to look at is to have a steeper slope close, in the wetland fill area instead of to minimize the wetland fill. So right now, the way we have it planned, and the fill is only about 590 square feet of fill just on the south side of the fill. So we're adjusting the truck dock area, reduce the length of it, so we're not proposing to fill that wetland, the west wetland. And then also there's a small wetland on the right by the south entrance that we're not planning to fill there, because again, requesting a 3-to-1 slope instead of a 4-to-1 slope so that we're not, because the DNR does not have they have a 0 setback. So, or they allow us to grade up to the wetland line without a 5-foot buffer, which is the new code. And then same thing with the north wetland, where we're able to work it out so that we don't have to fill that wetland. So from 2 weeks from the submittal that we originally submitted to the DNR and to the city, which is around 8,000 square foot of wetland fill, we're down to 590 square foot of wetland fill. And that was part of our response back to the DNR. So we're waiting for their response to their request of additional information.
You don't feel you will have any problems meeting the DNR requirements?
Yeah, I mean, my gut feeling, no,
Yes,
because
no.
we have, no, because we already have the NOI, the one department of the DNR already made an approval of it. We already have the notice of intent for erosion control. That allows us to do the grading for the entire site, including the wetland fill.
We don't see any problem with the DNR then.
It's timing issue with the DNR. That's another, they have 30 days to respond to our response, and then should they request another information, they have another 30 days to respond to that response, so. And as far as, if the timing works in such a way that we're waiting for their response for that 590 square foot of wetland fill, well, the construction wise, we could kind of avoid that area until that approval comes in during construction, so.
But Carrie, do you see any problems if they don't get approval from the DNR?
They don't get approval from the DNR, they may end up back before you for an additional modification to the site plan. I'm not sure it'll get that far. It may not be enough that they would have to come back, but there is the potential that they would.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Elsie?
I do have a question. I guess I'm a little unclear of what our approval is, because to my understanding, we should have the DNR's approval to move forward before progressing.
So, yes, except for we've received revised plans that have less direct impacts to the wetlands now. So with regard to what the DNR is going to decide or determine they need as additional information, it would ostensibly be, with these plans, less of an impact, less fill requested. And meeting that setback requirement per our code is, like I said, I haven't had an opportunity to really look at these, but I believe that the intent was to maintain that 5-foot setback, which is to the building. It's not to grading, it's not to pavement, it's not to anything like that. So we have in the past required as a condition that approvals or permits from the DNR be submitted prior to building permit applications. Again, without having an opportunity to really look at the plans, but thinking that these are moving in the right direction, I think staff is a little bit more comfortable with having that as a condition. It's just a matter of, it's timing for us, just like it's timing for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, we respect the fact that the applicant has been working on these plans and working with the DNR and that they have their own timing issues, but can staff give you with absolute assurance that these plans meet the code requirements? We can't do that. Can we give you absolute assurance that these plans meet the code requirements with the 10 conditions that we've recommended? Can't do that either, but they're closer.
Okay, so then my next question is for the applicant. So Carrie assured that a revision in the plans have been submitted. My question is to whom? Is that to Oak Creek? Is that to the DNR? Who received these revisions?
The revisions that all of you have are the revisions that we have received to date.
Okay, so they have not gone to the DNR answering all their questions.
The information that has been provided to the DNR, we have not received, but they have been in contact with the DNR. They have had conversations with the DNR. We just don't have that correspondence because it's not been by email.
Okay, so can you give us more information about that correspondence? Because the information we have in our packets shows there are a lot of unanswered questions from questions that the DNR has, which are unanswered.
Correct. So the materials that was submitted to the city yesterday and today have been forwarded to the reviewer at the DNR. Have they seen?
One quick question. When you say the materials, what are you referring to materials?
Oh, the plan. Yes, the changes,
plans.
the site plans that shows that we are reducing the proposed wetland fill. And then there was they had some question on alternative site analysis. They questioned us why we chose this site. So we responded accordingly with a letter from Erica at West Park, noting that what they saw as an open site is actually been sold off and not available for global schoolwear. So that was another question that DNR had. So we had to answer it, just give them a quote unquote approve to them that those open sites are not available. So.
Well, in addition to the open sites, there are actual questions about filling or not filling the wetlands.
Correct.
I think that's one of the main concerns here.
Yes, they want us to look further to see if we can reduce the amount of fill. Because like I mentioned, the original submittal that we submit to the city and the DNR, we requested about 8,000 square foot of fill through the general permit process, and we were able, through working with the city, we were able, and the owner and the client, able to make some adjustment with the site plan and the grading to reduce the wetland fill to about 590 square feet.
So I guess I'm still unclear.
And that information have been submitted to the DNR responding to their, was it 6 sets of questions in the original email.
So did they provide a response?
Not yet. No, they have 30 days to respond, to review that. I mean, fortunately for them, unfortunately for the staff. So they have 30 days. It's in the state statute with the DNR. So.
Okay. So I guess the other piece that I'm trying to understand is what activities can happen before the DNR actually approves this? Well, why is this such a rush that we should look at all these materials the day of and approve it today or give feedback today versus waiting until the DNR provides you the feedback? Because either way, if I'm understanding it correctly, Carrie, this cannot proceed forward if the DNR does not agree. Is that correct?
There can be no wetland impacts without DNR approval.
So I'm just trying to understand the reason for the rush to review this and approve or provide feedback today.
Mayor, Commissioners, staff.
Name and address, please.
My name is Greg Prosson. I'm with the Consortium AE. We're the primary design firm for this project. 893 Golden View Court, Oconomowoc. There's a commitment right now to deliver precast to the site. And as you know, all these building materials have incredibly long lead times of around the middle of September. In order to have the site ready to accept the precast to meet the end schedule for the global schoolwear to get into the building, the contractor feels that they need to be on the site moving dirt about the middle of July. And so that's the reason for the push to get this approved. I don't think it's, so under the general fill requirements by the DNR or rules, we typically get to fill up to 10,000 square feet of wetlands without any mitigation or other impacts, okay? And it was my decision initially, when we got into this project, my understanding was there were 0 setbacks. With your new zoning code that went into effect in March, your setbacks, you've essentially now have local setbacks for the wetlands of a 5-foot no grade buffer, a total 15-foot setback. I thought that we could just mitigate these 3 wetlands in various sizes under 10,000 square feet and meet your setback requirements. I just thought it was an easy out. I sent that to Riz. He sent the information to the state, to the DNR, and they said, we don't mitigate wetlands to take care of local setbacks that are more aggressive than our own. So we've found ways to, at least the strategy to kind of reduce paving on the west side of the site to take that wetland out of the fill scenario. Same thing on the north side of the site. We just have a very small little tiny piece on that south wetland where we need to reduce that enough so that we can get a 3-to-1 slope in there and still maintain the city's setbacks and not look like we're doing it just to accommodate the setback requirements. So that's the wetland issue. The other issue I think that was a big concern was the aesthetics and, what we've got in the park currently, which is primarily buildings that are smooth, painted, precast buildings, articulations both in height and depth in most cases. Our building was approved by West Park. I know that's got really nothing to do with the plan commission and the zoning code. But the previous building was approved by West Park and the West Park's architect for per the covenants. We think we've improved the street elevations, which I think they're the ones that are a primary concern with the articulation of these column elements, both in height and in depth. I think my understanding, Carrie, is that we would have to ask the Plan Commission for a modification on this, correct? To get the street elevations approved, because they don't meet the letter of your new zoning code with regard to the percentage of smooth concrete or smooth concrete on the street facades.
So that would be correct. There would be a modification request for anything that doesn't meet the specific requirements of the materials as laid out in the code. I couldn't give you an exact modification language though, because I haven't had an opportunity to really review this to give you that modification language. So I know that's correct based on the fact that the percentages provided don't seem to on the surface meet that requirement, but I can't give you the exact language on that at the moment.
A lot of the conditions and restrictions are the stuff. As far as the facade goes, I'll just start with that. I like the look from the streets. Now,
From staff's perspective, again, just getting the information in the last 2 days, it does appear that they're moving in the right direction. But if the Plan Commission is going to be granting a modification request, I have to give you that exact modification request to actually approve, and I don't have that prepared for you right now.
so we can't really ask for that, but I mean, we can move it. Put it this way, if the DNR can stop this whole thing, correct? Technically?
They can stop the impacts to the wetlands.
Right. It really comes down to timing issues going forward on this. The percentages, if Carrie, Doug, and Jack are confident they can work with the applicants to where they gotta be.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have the modification language for you right now.
Oh, I know you don't, but
So
again,
the Plan Commission would be issuing a condition that would say that they would have to meet the code requirements, which I'm taking Greg as being, reading our code absolutely correctly, and I'm trusting that his analysis of our code is that the modification request would be required.
They couldn't come back within 2 weeks.
They could, but that would be a hold on the plans.
What did you just say? That'd be a whole.
That'd be a hold.
on tonight's plan. But
Yeah,
again, it's gonna come down to superficial building, not superficial.
It's part of your jurisdiction, it's part of your purview.
I mean, one side's a loading dock.
We're not talking about the west elevation at this point, though. Not just materials percentages wise, I believe it is 50%. So but again, I would want to take a look at the exact breakdowns.
Haven't had enough. Be contingent on meeting it.
Well, the Plan Commission has basically two options here. One, you can wait, request additional information, or you can require that they meet the letter of the code in your approvals with the conditions that we presented to you.
They going forward, then meet it. I mean, you don't want to come back in 2 weeks.
But we can't meet the letter of the code. So specific to the aesthetics, there is a requirement in the new zoning code that requires no more than 50% smooth concrete on any of the sides of the building. Certainly the back is more than 50% in the north side also. Which again is no different than any other building in the park.
Facing.
So, and I would add, not to confuse things, but we can in fact, so the small fill on the south wetland, about 550 square feet. We don't necessarily need to do that fill. We could put a retaining wall literally right on the wetland itself. But, now we're modifying within the 5-foot buffer that the city has requested. But we can do it.
On this, without having an opportunity for the engineering department to review the revised erosion control and grading plans, they are, at least on the surface, okay with the 3-to-1 slope to avoid the retaining wall issue. But we would just, from staff's perspective, we're just requesting an opportunity to review these plans, give them what they deserve, which is a good review.
Yeah.
So that, everything can be presented for everybody's clear approval.
But aesthetically, we're not meeting the building.
I'm sorry?
Aesthetically, we're over 50% of the building is smooth concrete, is tip-up panel.
In some cases, that's correct. Per elevation.
Can't disagree. A lot of them buildings in the park are that way.
On the loading docks, that's probably correct.
On all the sides.
Trying to think. Time's out just horribly. And not your fault. Just for all intents and purposes, I think it's actually pretty nice looking building.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody's disputing that. No.
So, okay, we know what the DNR timing issues are, and that could even be dragged out to 60 days, it sounds like, if they request more information. Hopefully that's not the case. What other timing issues are we up against here? Other than the construction logistics, and I understand those, and I understand why you'd want to get some of those logistics moving. Oh, somebody wants to say something. Yeah.
You gotta come up.
I know, I just want to make sure that. So my name's Adam Weil. I'm 2625 North Harding in Wauwatosa. I'm the founder and the CEO of the company. So we are, first of all, excited about the possibility about moving this here from where we are to Oak Creek. Location, a lot of great things. Timing issues on how our business works. So we are extremely seasonal because it's school uniforms, right? So we are global school, Tommy Hilfiger school uniforms is what we work with. So we need to get in by a certain date so we can move everything in order to be able to ship for back to school. So if we're not, so right now we're in June, right? We're full on right now out of Chicago. So we talked a little bit about the two shifts during that one season when we do it. So for us, as we've been going down this process with these folks, it's always been about getting in on time, because if we don't, then we won't be able to get the building set up correctly. We won't be able to get ready to ship, and then it would create a huge issue for us. We've outgrown the spot that we're in Chicago. So that's I just wanted to answer that question as far as how the timing works. So it's really on the way that the company works and the timing in order to be able to fulfill the customer's needs.
Have you ever called a special planning commission meeting?
We could schedule a special plan commission meeting if we had a quorum and we had sufficient time for notice requirements to the surrounding landowners, which in OP Business Park is relatively small. So if we presented, it's not going to work in this case because then we're getting into the 4th of July holiday. Unless you met on an off night, we don't have any other meeting conflicts whenever you choose to meet. It always comes down to timing.
Right. How long do you think staff would need to give this a thorough looking at?
With current staff workloads, I would say we would need at least a few days, if not a week.
I just feel like I'd be undermining the staff if we approve this without them giving it a thorough review. That's my only real concern here, because I trust them with almost just about anything.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's
those questions, and they were like confident, or they had a chance, like even a day to look at this and said, hey, we gave it a kind of a half-assed review, but we're still pretty good with it. I'd feel better just in that alone. But yeah, I guess that's the question. How much time do you need, and could we put together another meeting, even if it was Zoom?
We're not permitted to do meetings by Zoom any longer.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not know that. Okay.
Prior to Tuesday's meeting, don't you start at 7:00?
Well, the next Tuesday is the 4th of July holiday.
July would have to happen.
So you would have to meet on an off night.
You have to meet on the 5th. If possible.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. You're here anyway, or?
No, we can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Council's off.
That's why. Okay, sorry.
But it still doesn't mean you can't call a planning commission.
No, we can call a plan commission meeting to a special plan commission meeting, but it's a matter of making sure that everybody is available for a quorum and we have enough time to do our proper notice. And again, we recognize that this is really just going to be limited to Oakview Business Park because the 300-foot rule is really just within the park. So, we haven't heard any objections to anybody else in the park as of now. So I really doubt you. I doubt that we're going to hear any objection, but we still have to follow our standard notice procedure.
Getting a quorum is probably possible.
When is the next scheduled plan commission?
July 12th, 2 weeks.
Sounds like the best we could buy you is a week.
The real goal here is to try and get on the site to start pushing dirt the middle of July. Part of our building permit application is plan review, of course, and that's done here in the city as an agent for the DSPS. We do have a request in right now for permission to start, which allows us to start on the site without, a full review. We take the responsibility if there's some issues with that. If we can get that permission to start almost immediately after the plan commission, review, I think the 12th can work for us. I think there's a way to take the fill on the small fill on the south wetland off the table if the city would consider allowing us to put in a retaining wall in that first 5 feet of offset, we'll say, from the wetland. The building itself will fall within that, what would be a 15-foot setback from that north edge of that small wetland.
I'm not entirely understanding why you would want to put a retaining wall as opposed to a 3-to-1 slope.
Well, Carrie, if you don't mind. So this is the small portion that we're going to take off that wetland at 580 square feet. You can see we need a retaining wall on this side in order to get the building near the elevation on the side.
So regardless, you would still need that retaining wall.
I need the retaining wall if we didn't fill this portion of the wetland.
Gotcha.
And by filling that portion, we can get our 5 foot buffer and 15-foot setback. Using the 3-to-1 slope, no retaining walls needed. If we don't fill that wetland, then I've got to get a retaining wall and I guess a variance for the setback.
You're on the south east corner.
Carrie, if you wouldn't mind, can you bring that architectural? There you go. So you can see that south wetland, there's a very small portion on the north end of it closest to the building that we would like to fill about 580 square feet of that wetland. That will accommodate that 3-to-1 slope for grading, and will also accommodate the 15-foot setback that the city is requiring from the wetland. If we don't fill it, we can put a retaining wall at the edge of the wetland. What we can't do is meet the 15-foot setback because the building effectively would fall within that. Normally, I think I screwed this up months ago when we said we can just fill 8,000 square feet of wetland. The state will be just fine with it, and we can accommodate everybody. And the state said, not really.
Probably.
I can't speak for the inspection department in terms of their workload and what their permit review would be. I can only promise that we would move as quickly as we could to get an early start reviewed. I can't, without having a conversation with them, determine what exactly would be the review period for that.
It's in right now. What I didn't realize was that as part of your process, you hold off on doing that review until we get through the planning commission.
That's correct, because they can't approve something that the plan commission has to give their approval for.
Understand.
Yeah.
That's not the way it would work if we set to submit it to the DSPS, and it's fine. It's totally fine.
Would our approval be contingent on their approval?
I don't see how that's circular logic.
Oh, contingent on your building department?
I could fool somebody there, I don't know.
No.
And I see no issues with the building department approval here with true building code stuff. This is DNR and your zoning code.
Well, to be frank, the engineering department also has to review the erosion control as part of the early start, so that also comes into play. I just don't know if there are any issues that engineering would see that I wouldn't see. And I don't want to speak for them.
No. It's tough. I hate to throw that down on staff, but
Man, there's a lot of open questions here. So you think if you came back to 12th, you could still squeeze it in?
You know, based on everything we've heard tonight from Plan Commission and from staff,
Because
we're
here's the
tight.
deal. If we got off on the wrong foot and we continue to go down that path, it's gonna be a mess in the end.
Yeah.
And usually, that's why it's so choppy right now. Because it just started off on the wrong foot, wherever it started. I would say, let's make sure we're as correct as we can be and come back on the 12th with it and get you through. And if we need a special one, we'll call a special one. But again, I don't wanna make promises my staff can't keep. Larry, if you feel confident, you, Jack, Doug can work through this and clear up some of the questions. And again, I don't know where engineering's at.
Yeah, we would just like to have the opportunity to have that conversation and move forward. I don't see that we couldn't at least move in the right direction toward at least, maybe even paring down some of these conditions for you on the 12th.
Yeah, and a lot of them are standards. Some of them are.
I mean, one of them, we already know, it has to be revised because we've received comments from the Army Corps that they are not taking jurisdiction. Well, that came in late.
Yeah. So, and I mean, if we gotta bump you up earlier, I'll accommodate you on that if I can get a quorum. I mean, it's only gonna be a one item deal.
We would have a quorum if everybody agreed to meet. Well, I can't do that because I don't know exactly what the date would be. I'd have to take a look at what the rest of the schedules are
Right, and
for
we
all the
have
other
to do,
meetings.
and we have to do posting, but if,
I mean, if the 12th is still okay, and you already have your application in, so assuming that we can get revised plans to everybody like immediately, if the 12th can still work, we don't have to do anything special. We could just do it on the 12th. And then the 13th, you know, again, if we have all the plans in place, we can start a review of the early start permit.
I think the 12th can work as long as, you know, we can meet with staff and work these things out between now and then.
let's shoot for the 12th and err on the side of caution and get this right. If by chance we gotta go quicker than the 12th, we'll try. Not to throw another wrench in this, Assistant Chief Havey, any concerns from fire? But as long as we're looking at issues, I don't want to bring you up here on the 12th.
Good evening, Mayor. Again, since I was here, we don't have any concerns right now. If it's the foundation or this is engineering, fire protection, the underground utilities, that'll come into play when it bears the review process.
Nothing glaring for you that, I mean.
Nothing outstanding that we haven't already discussed in our pre-planning meetings that need to address tonight.
Okay. Okay. So that's good news. So we do have a couple things down here now, and then of course, the aesthetics of the building itself, correct?
We're close,
Yep. So
we think.
I have faith. Don't worry, you guys look tense. We'll be okay.
It's never, look, I just want to make it clear, it's never been about the use.
No.
We do
No,
think
not
that
at all.
these
I
issues
mean,
can be
we
worked through.
wanna find a way, but we have to be very consistent in what we do. Not just for you, but the next person coming through too.
Understand.
So we're in a little bit of a learning curve here, and time constraints kind of condense that as well.
To hold an actual motion, I forget how that works.
It is,
Okay,
but we don't want to do a specific date, hold to a future date?
Well, to a future date, we've already got it penciled in for the 12th.
Okay. If by chance we need it sooner, we can talk then.
Don't know that I can accommodate it sooner, to be
I'm not
perfectly
making
honest.
promises for you. You do the best you can do. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
All right, Holdani moves to hold item number 8A to a future date.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Chauncey.
Jamblor, aye. Grillo, aye.
Jinsky, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Holdani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Hey, guys, we'll get there.
Thank you.
We'll get there.
Boy, that's gonna get us to some announcements and,
Thanks, Karen.
adjournment. So, this is the last time we meet before the 4th of July, so I wish everybody a happy 4th early. The market is going on though. It isn't a holiday, so July the 2nd, Dawn, anything special going on there?
You're doing a dedication.
Oh, yeah, we are doing a flag sculpt dedication at Drexel Town Square, about 11 o'clock at the farmer's market. If you're not aware of it, the Gruno Company has donated a sculpt, a permanent sculpt flag, that they made. And, it goes hand in hand with our flag tour. So it's gonna be a permanent addition to Drexel Town Square. We're looking forward to it. We want to thank Gruno for their generosity and Eater as well for what they've done for the city. I hope it's gonna be an outstanding addition. If it isn't, it's gonna garnish talk either way. So, I guess any talk is good talk. Other than that, the farmers and the vendors have a lot of product to move. Things are starting to come in, so visit it. And then, of course, the parade happens on Monday. So rain or shine, will go on, starts over by the community center and high school and ends up at the Legion. So, yes.
One announcement for everybody. I'd like to introduce you to our new zoning administrator and planner, Jack Koneski. His official start date was yesterday, so he will be a common face at Plan Commission meetings from here on in. I'd like to thank him for all the hard work that he's put in over the past year with us, and we have every confidence that he will do a great job in his new role. So thank you and welcome.
Welcome, Jack.
Yeah, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you guys more.
Oh, you will. And you know what? I promised Kevin I'd get Nick out of here early and I failed on that one. So sorry about that, Nick. Anyways, if nothing further, motion to adjourn.
Berlin moves to adjourn at 8:27.
Seifert seconds.
Okay, roll call, starting with Dawn.
Berlin, aye.
Jinsky, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Holdani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
All right. Good night, everybody.